Hello, everyone. This thing has been on my mind for a good while, and that's because I like fantasy. And I mean it, I like fantasy. One of my more favorite films that I've watched recently was Conan the Barbarian from 1985. And then there's Berserk, the manga that I got into reading just a few months ago, and I'm currently going to get issues 6 to 10 in the next few days. And yeah, I like fantasy. But I want to talk about something that I noticed for a good while. And it's how effeminate fantasy has become. And what I mean by effeminate, just take a look at Baldur's Gate. Okay, like take a look at Baldur's Gate 3 and you will see why I say fantasy has become effeminate. Hell, I mean by to take a look at Minecraft as well. Even that is a fantasy game because, well, it has a lot of fantasy creatures, it has a lot of fantasy elements. But why do I also bring up Minecraft as an example? Because it too is becoming a cozy game, even though it's meant to be a game about survival adventure. And the reason why I mentioned Minecraft just now is because I think in like the next 5 years, old, and I mean old Minecraft from like 2009 to 2016 will be considered to be borderline dark fantasy by audiences in the near future. Why? Because fantasy has really become cozy and effeminate. Like to bring up my point with Minecraft, take a look at the ghast. The ghast was once in the lore of Minecraft considered to be a machine wearing an organic cloak in the mob bestiary from 2017. And now we have the baby ghast and the happy ghast, which I honestly refuse to call it the happy ghast. I honestly prefer to call it the Reddit ghast because that's what it's really made for. Redditors who are obsessed with the whole entire le heckin' wholesome chungus stuff, right? I honestly think it was made for them, especially with how it's designed and how it's made to look wholesome and cute. Which of course, yes, being wholesome and cute isn't necessarily bad. We have 3D platformers; those games, quite honestly, succeed in being wholesome and cute. But with something like the baby gas, you can tell that Minecraft is going from being some survival adventure game with fantasy elements to some cozy game with fantasy elements. Like even my friend from Canada, Morale 2014, pointed out that old Minecraft literally had hell. Like the old in the Nether. Like it literally looks like hell, or at least the pop culture depiction of hell, right? And now in the new Nether, it doesn't exactly look like hell now, does it? And there's kind of a reason why I kind of prefer the old Nether, because it does honestly look like hell. Hell, I mean by back when Notch first introduced the Nether, it was actually once called Hell, but he kind of removed the name just to kind of avoid controversies, and I can't blame him for such. Now back to Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate 3 is just peak effeminate fantasy, and I mean it. There's a reason why people are now making memes with fantasy saying reject modernity, return to tradition. And when they say tradition, they mainly refer to actual high fantasy or dark fantasy. Think of something akin to like the Lord of the Rings, Conan the Barbarian, or something, or something a bit more simple than that, like Max Magician and the Legend of the Rings. Sorry, but Yet what I mean, they want actual fantasy, not to something that is pretty much cozy and effeminate and is oddly enough filled to the brim with a lot of LGTV stuff. You know, the ad type. Like fantasy kind of became like how goth is today. Like back in the 1980s, goth was a fashion sense. And now in the modern day, now we have a lot of goths who happen to be deviants and all that stuff. You know, it's kind of like that, but in literature, video game, and movie form. And I honestly kind of don't like how our own society is going with fantasy. Now, you may be wondering if they are going to consider old Minecraft borderline dark fantasy, then how will they view actual dark fantasy? Well, we already have the answer through Berserk. I mean, when Twitter first discovered Berserk, they called it gore and torture smut. Meanwhile, they supported films like, oh, I don't know, Cuties. Yeah, they supported that film. But are we willing to call a piece of writing and some manga, which is really the best one ever made, as something awful and terrible, that it's all misogynistic and all that stuff, and it's somehow pedophilic, which is quite ironic with what I just mentioned with Cuties. Yeah, if you guys are wondering why this video is a bit less structured than usual, it's because it's just really a rant. It's a big old rant video that I'm doing because I have nothing else to talk about, and I'm honestly kind of tired of seeing fantasy become more gay, cozy, effeminate, and quite frankly, boring and lame. I want fantasy that's cool and awesome. Like I mean by Conan, when he was first written by Robert E. Howard back in 1932, is literally awesome. Like Conan the Barbarian back in 1932 paved the way to dark fantasy as we see it nowadays. Like like Conan was ahead of his time. I used to watch this one guy called the Almighty Lolly before he pretty much proved himself to be a shill over Kingdom Come and Deliverance too. But I remember watching this video on Conan the Barbarian, and he made a great point about it, calling it heavy metal before heavy metal, and he's right. Conan the Barbarian from 1932 was heavy metal before heavy metal. Like, there are so many bands inspired by the guy. Case in point, Manowar, and there's a British band, full-blown named Conan. And, yeah, they're pretty cool. Their music is good. And with Berserk, come on, let's just admit it. It's the best manga out there. Because I mean, by even I'm starting to read it, and I will have to say it's pretty good. And now with something like The Lord of the Rings, that book gave birth to high fantasy, and I mean it. It gave birth to high fantasy, and now what is modern day high fantasy? Something a bit more akin to like, you know, Baldur's Gate 3. And I quite frankly don't exactly like that game, mainly because, well, such as I said, it's effeminate, and that's enough to kind of make me just stay away from the game, as my first impressions are indeed everything. And if you could get your first impressions wrong, then you just pretty much ruined the chances of you becoming popular. And then there are the jokes in the game. I think everyone knows about that one bear scene in the game. I don't really need to describe it, but that's also the other element in the modern fantasy. It's just way too dependent on dirty jokes and a lot of things that are associated with smut. You know, stuff like that. Like, I mean, I get me making an occasional joke, but when you do it a lot, it just kind of tells people like me that you might have a bit of a thing for it. But yeah, I quite frankly do not like how fantasy is going nowadays. I personally think we should make new media that just kind of embraces the old bits of fantasy, either taking inspiration from something like a Conan or Lord of the Rings, or maybe if we go a bit more simple, just a simple fantasy setting like a Fable or even Skyrim. You know, to taking inspiration from those. Anyway, that's all I have to say because I quite frankly don't even know what to say anymore. So you guys have a good day.
Save the last pint for me, boys. Save the last pint for me. I'll be home with the book of rules, so you save the last pint for me. Save the last pint for me, boys. Save the last pint for me.
We came home with a book of rule, and you saved the last pint for me.
And so there was Roman for the task to steal the book the king once took and return it home at last. And he had 3 companions, Rex's, Q and Jones. Legends to none as they began a journey to certain death. And they sang, save the last pint for me, boys. Save the last pint for me.